Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Howie Roseman does it again. Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. If you told me the board broke a certain way and the Eagles landed Nolan Smith at 10, I would have been okay with it, and we move on and we see what he could be. Athletic as hell. You know, the comp to Hassan Reddick. The numbers are outrageous, and what he did with his vertical, you're talking DK Metcalf level. Then you go to his 40 time. The dude is a special talent, and I can't wait for the Eagles to get a hand on him to mold him while working with someone like Brandon Graham, working with Hassan Reddick. It's going to be incredible. If you told me that's what you walked away from day one with, and then you moved back at 30 or whatever the hell the case is, but with your higher draft pick, you landed Nolan Smith, I would have been cool with it. But you land Jalen Carter, arguably the best talent in the draft. Now, if you want to say it's Will Anderson, if you want to say it's somebody else, fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But you know he's in that grouping. Say what you want about the off-the-field stuff. I'm with Howie, where, one, they did their homework, so they all have way more knowledge on it than we do. But when you have the culture set that the Eagles have at the NovaCare complex with Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and everybody else who's been around the block for a long period of time, even guys like Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman himself, they've been around professional football for a long period of time. Dom, we know how they feel about Big Dom. The guy does it all. So they feel like we have what's in place to make sure that we put him in the best position possible to succeed with the off-the-field issues. Pure talent-wise on the football field, though, come on, man. And I'm stunned that they were able to make a trade with Chicago because I thought they would have to leapfrog over Chicago, maybe with Atlanta, who ended up being stupid as hell and taking a running back with the 8th overall pick. And yes, you're going to see Bijan Robinson make plays in the National Football League. I'm not unaware of that. He'll make special plays. He'll be on the highlight reel. You'll be watching Red Zone. You'll be losing your mind on some things. But when you look at how you're supposed to prioritize assets, that's not maximizing your value. Oh, yeah, the Lions. Whoop-de-fucking-do with that pick at Gibbs at 12. What a disaster for the Lions. I wanted someone who had a high probability of landing a second contract with your team. That's not the case with running back, and then unless you feel obligated to force yourself in a tough spot and back yourself into a corner because, well, we have to justify picking him high. Garbage, 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 garbage. Good franchises look at the trenches and realize that Fletch is getting older and Brandon Graham's getting older, and we can replenish this line. Losing Hargrave was a big deal. To get that type of pressure out of your interior and then losing him to San Francisco, who is going to have special weapons on their defensive front, you have to plug back in there. And for you to land this player, wow. He could do it all. Get to the quarterback, help stop the run, and he's in the mix with Jordan Davis. Look at the youth that's now on this line. I didn't like where they were prior to the draft. It concerned me a little bit. I'm not ready for Milton Williams to have a huge role, and maybe huge role is unfair to say, but if you remove what they acquired in the first round, Milton Williams would have had his number called significantly more than what is going to happen now with Jalen Carter here. Also, it's not as if you just have to go in there and eat by yourself. One of the things that makes the Eagles so special is how you're able to replenish your line in a game with so much depth. They come in waves. Your offensive line, if you're an opponent, is getting torched because there's fresh bodies, and those fresh bodies that are working within this rotation are deadly. right? It's not as if there's bums as you start moving through your players and changing them in and out through series. Here's Fletcher Cox. Here's Jalen Carter. Here's Jordan Davis. Here's Josh Sweat. Here's Hassan Reddick. It doesn't stop. And it wears you down. They won't reach 70 sacks. But I'll tell you what, I love the way that they're set up for the long run here with thinking about pressure. I am thrilled. This couldn't have gone any better. I know you can't say who wins a draft until years down the road when you see players and how they progress. But you can absolutely grade the thought process and the value. I love what Houston did. They went and got their quarterback and said, hold on a second, we're not done yet. Hey, defense. You know what that is? That's a statement from DeMeco Ryans. And that's incredible. I'm rooting for him. And that's a way to let everyone know we mean business. We're going to flip this thing around. I'm not okay with the disaster that was. It's time. Well, Eagles doing this. They were just in the Super Bowl. Everyone's seen that clip of Micah Parsons and A.J. Brown online. And Micah Parsons is all pissed off. I can't believe it. Look at what Philadelphia's doing. This is unfair. Look at the talent they brought in. And then you have some stupid New York Giants show doing the same damn thing. They're like, I don't get it. How do they keep doing this? How do the rich get richer? Why is it always the Eagles? Well, you got Howie Roseman in charge. And I was starting to get nervous because when I realized the Eagles weren't going to move up at 30 with Nolan Smith on the board, because that was my first thought. Dude, he's still here? We're getting in that early 20 range. Can you move up? Because all they did to go get Jalen Carter was use a 4th-round draft pick in next year's draft to solidify your guy. That's a no-brainer. It's clear now that the Bears, who I thought would be a lock for Jalen Carter at 9, clearly wanted to go in a different direction, and they used that leverage because the Eagles thought that Jalen Carter would go to Chicago as well, to say, all right, fine. We'll take that pick next year, and we'll go with someone else who can help us out. There's been all sorts of reports that teams strictly took him off the board. I don't care about how good he is. I don't care about what he can do in the product on the football field. I want nothing to do with his off-the-field issues. Okay, but that's the luxury you have when you look into the Eagles' locker room and it proves itself. Now, granted, it needs to be completed. And, you know, part of this, too, I don't want to put all the pressure on Lane and Jason. And I know Jalen Carter himself even referenced Jordan Davis and what Jordan Davis means to him playing at Georgia and going through that experience together. Same with Nakobe Dean. Part of this is on, a lot of it, too, not just part. A lot of this is on Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis is still trying to establish himself in the National Football League. Nakobe Dean sat on the bench last year watching and probably thought to himself, I can be out there. I'm ready to make plays. I get it. I'm going to be a team guy. I'm going to soak all this in. But I know my worth, and I know my talent, and I could be a starting linebacker for the Eagles. But this is my path. I'm going to embrace this side of the journey. But I'm hungry, and I'm ready for next year. But if anything happens, I'm ready to step in. If somebody goes down, if somebody gets injured, if you need me, I'll be there. These players also have to focus on their job. So it's the portion of the whole entire situation. A part of it is what's at the NovaCare complex from a professionalism standpoint in the room. And then a lot of it is on Jalen Carter. How bad do you want it? You could talk about how he wasn't in shape at his pro day and maybe didn't handle that as well as he should. There's things there. I'm not pretending like this is just some minor little hurdle. There's something there. He went through a very tragic experience. We probably all did something similar to driving fast when we were young that didn't necessarily result in something he had to deal with. And maybe there's a correlation with some of the pro day stuff and how things occurred after that all went down, because you're a human being and you go through something that really shakes you to your core, and it's horrible. But I like the pieces that are in place. If it isn't going to work here, it wasn't going to work anywhere, because I think what the culture is with this current group doesn't get much stronger than that. And by the way, I haven't even mentioned Jalen Hurts yet. It's contagious when he speaks. It's contagious when he sells you a message. He got the big ticket. And by the way, already there's another quarterback that got a bag that no longer makes Jalen Hurts the highest money. What do you know? Just like that. Snap your fingers. I'm telling you, 6 contracts from now, no one's looking at Jalen Hurts saying, I can't believe he's getting paid this much. It's going to be the Bryce Harper effect. Bryce Harper got ridiculed and mocked, and the Phillies were getting called an embarrassment. How do you pay that much money for a player? Go look at the deals now. Good for Lamar Jackson, too. I'm very happy for him. It's a tough battle to go up against a monster like the National Football League without an agent, because it's not just the league that grinds you down, but every agent in the world doesn't want you to win, because then that devalues their job. So when he saves millions of dollars for not having to pay a fee, 3% or whatever the fee is, now other players have their eyebrows raised because they realize, hold on a second, he saved how much? Hold on, he did what? Oh, I don't need an agent now? You're going up against a beast. And you know how strong the NFL is. And look, I don't blame him. Not that this show's about Lamar Jackson, but I don't blame him for trying to get all the money guaranteed once Deshaun Watson got it. He's trying to push the market. And in reality, it's good for all the players because, let's be honest, they all would love that. But once he realized Jalen Hurts got what he got, okay, the league's not going in that direction. Deshaun Watson's the outlier. What can I do now? He did great, so good for him. Happy for him. But Jalen Hurts, he's going to inspire Jalen Carter, because you see what he does? You see how he approaches his job every day? It's contagious. You can't touch it. You can't see it. It's not physical. It's not a physical form. But damn it, it's in the air. And it can't hurt being with N'Kobe. It can't hurt having that comfortability factor of looking around when you're on the field. You're seeing Jordan Davis. Goes a long way. So I think it's a great day for the Eagles. I think it's a fantastic 2 picks in the first round. I thought that they would trade back. But yeah, going back to that, when Nolan Smith was on the board and you were getting in the mid-20s, I thought you have to go get him, and he ended up falling right in your lap. And Howie did say that he was getting some phone calls and he was trying to figure out everything, but once he realized that talent was still there, which they clearly had him high on his board because he probably would have been potentially picked at 10 if the board fell differently, I would have been okay with any correlation of these players or any combination of these players. Jalen Carter, Paris Johnson, Van Ness, which for some reason Eagles Twitter just decided that's the guy we're going to rip apart and destroy if Howie Roseman selects him. Van Ness is a damn good player. And yeah, look, there's growing pains. There's growing pains in all of these players. Van Ness, just because Iowa goes about their business a certain way, it doesn't mean that you should knock the player. Van Ness is a solid pick. Skoronski, I don't care about the arm length thing. I would have been cool with him on your offensive line. And Nolan Smith, any of those 5 players with that first selection, I would have been cool with. I would have been excited about. And the fact that 2 of those guys And Jalen Carter being my overall number one, that's what I was praying for. I was asking the football gods as I was driving home from the studio, getting prepared for the long night that was going to be. I was beat last night around midnight when it all ended. So I ended up realizing, you know what? It's best for me to do the show in the morning instead of that night because I was destroyed. The night started off weird too. But I'm just stoked that we're sitting here. I feel like that was a really weird way to end talking about how the night ended. But anyway, I don't know. I'm in the middle of drinking my nice venti vanilla blonde latte with almond milk. See, this is how bad it's getting. I Uber eated it to my house. So I surprised the wife, who was sleeping at the time, with a nice Uber Eat. The problem is, first off, Starbucks is expensive as hell to begin with. Now I'm sending it to my house. I don't like doing this, so I don't even like to admit it. But it ends up being $28 for 2 coffees. Like, what is wrong with me? This is sick. This is terrible. Who the hell spends that much money on coffee? I don't do this all the time. It was a one-time event. I've done it a couple more times than one time, but just listen to me and hear me out. It's the NFL draft. I need to get active for the people. I need to get all juiced up for the people. Venti's here for me. Now, it's ironic that I was off my game there, and that's what made me realize I needed a sip of coffee, so it clearly hasn't worked to the point where I thought it would. But anyway, all right, we got to shut the hell up and start talking about Jonathan Gannon being the biggest fraud in NFL history. The guy lied right to our face. This guy's a liar. That's what he is. He's a liar. So the night starts off. Hold on, I need a sip of this. I'm all fired up now, damn it. Okay. The night starts off with a bomb from Shefty that Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals had conversations prior to when they should have. Hold on, JG. I remember you saying, I was stunned that Arizona wanted to communicate with me. I had no idea. I was caught off guard. Howie Roseman told me, and I was, in a state of what? Is this for real? And then he has the balls about a week ago to say the nonsense about how Philadelphia media wanted him fired after a 9-0 start, even though that wasn't even his record, so clearly he wasn't paying attention, which makes a lot of sense considering he sucks, but I digress again. That guy has to be the worst human in the football world. I can't stand it. And the fact that the Arizona Cardinals thought sneaking in to speak to him early was worth that, because now the Eagles have a way higher pick. 66, that was a massive jump. Being in the 90s, now being in the 66. Dude, Jonathan Gannon is not that good, and the fact that they self-reported it, this is bizarre, right? I would think that in theory you would maybe lose a draft pick, but the Eagles and them worked out a trade, and I'm sure Howie Roseman's fingertips were all over that, but damn, dude, never, ever, 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 ever would I think Jonathan Gannon is worth losing that much value in the NFL draft. But it goes back to, I knew it didn't smell right. I just knew it. These examples is a product of what was wrong last year. Whether you want to admit it or not, I see a correlation. I do. There was something off with Jonathan Gannon. But the numbers were the numbers. And they were winning football games, and they were getting a lot of sacks. But when you watched and you were dug in as much as we were dug in, we knew it. There's times where I think the fans in the city overreact and go too far, which is all part of the blessing of our passion. So I work with it a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't irritate me because I understand, but I just don't feel as aggressive as others, if that makes sense. But with the Jonathan Gannon, there was something about it where we collectively as a unit realized, we see the results, but deep down, I'm not buying it because we have a good sense of the fraudulent meter. The radar. of realizing when someone isn't us, and it's not about being us, but just being right, being true to who you are. We smell when you're phony. This guy's a phony. And the way that the draft kicked off with that, oh man, it just brings it full circle to what we thought about Jonathan Gannon in the past. But enough about him. Ultimately, before we get to some of these anytime hotline calls, to reiterate, you lose Javon Hargrave, and you can slot in a Jalen Carter and a Nolan Smith, too. You go to Georgia, you get these players that are the best in the SEC. You get national championship caliber guys. They speak, very highly on who Nolan Smith is, the person. Nolan Smith is the leader. You tie that together with Nakobe Dean. I think there's some swag there. I think there's some big personality there. You see how close Nakobe Dean is and Jordan Davis is with these players, reaching out instantly, communicating with them, being in the room with them as they get drafted. Nolan Smith, you see them all dap up. I think it's important for that cohesiveness. And, it's hard to go into an NFL room, especially as a rookie, and you look around and you see these vets. You see these players that you've been watching for a long period of time. And I'm not saying you get starstruck or whatever, but I know it makes it easier when you're with people that you know. Even if it's 2 people, even if it's 3 people, there's a lot of guys that show up to camp. There's a lot of bodies. There's a lot of coaches. Hell, they even added a nickel-specific coach this year. So the list of coaches even grow and grow. You go to a new city, an unfamiliar place, and you look around and you see nobody you know, and you see some respected players that you've been watching on TV. I'm just saying it could be a little uneasy, just in an area of unknown. When you know very closely a few others, let's just settle in easier. And when you settle in easier, you can approach the job differently and then execute better, do your thing, be you. And I'm excited for it. 2 picks in the first round? No shot I saw this coming. I thought trade up and a trade down. Trade up and a trade down to get more assets for the middle rounds. Wow, where does Howie go from here? D-line? I'm kidding. All right, let's do phone calls. I'll shut up. You talk. How about that? All right, let's do this. Here we go.
Hey, bros. First of all, rest in peace, Jerry Springer.
Yes.
On a serious note, upon the draft, I really don't actually like it at all. I know you're going to say I'm the negative Nancy for it, but yes, the value for Jalen Carter.
Hold on a second. I normally don't do this. I normally don't pause calls, and I let the call run out. What? This can't be serious. There's no way that you can hate this pick. There's no way that you can hate this day. This is tremendous value. This is incredible what they were able to accomplish in the first round of the NFL draft. See, this is where, with all due respect, and I appreciate you calling in, and I love the fact that you spent time out of your night to call into the Anytime Hotline. Seriously, I do. This is all just part of the sports talk radio process, back and forth, disagreeing. I don't disrespect you as a human, I promise, but I am going to get a little bit angry, and I just want to put that out there before we keep going. Did you watch Georgia play? Jalen Carter annihilates you in the trenches. He takes over games. One of my biggest things I love thinking about is when you have a player that other teams, when they are preparing for you, have to circle the player and then look at the team in the locker room and say, you need to be aware at all costs where this guy is. That means a lot to me, because that shows what he brings to the table scares your opponent. When the Eagles go up against the Rams, You think there's a few guys they pay attention to? Granted, last year it didn't play out as well as they probably anticipated. But I'm saying when they were in their sharpest form, Aaron Donald, guys like Von Miller, there's freaks out there. That's Carter, man. That's Jalen Carter. And by the way, you also have to circle Hassan Reddick. And then you have to realize that Brandon Graham had double-digit sacks last year. You have to circle him. So hold on. It's impressive when you have one of those guys. Now there's three. Well, yeah, you put the emphasis on BG. You put the emphasis on Hassan Reddick, who was insane last season. Opens up the door for a Carter even more. Traditionally, I would say once he gets rolling into his NFL career, he's going to be the one that you have to really, really put a lot of stock into, which then could open up the door for a Josh Sweat or for a Nolan Smith, who puts so much pressure on the quarterback. Say what you want about the sacks. Well, his sacks numbers aren't high. We've heard that for a long time about Brandon Graham. He does so much more than just record sacks. Nolan Smith disrupts a ton. But Jalen Carter, man. Oh, man. All right. We'll continue this call, but I just didn't expect, and it threw me in for a loop, that the first call we go to would be disappointed. I don't expect to have any more disappointment in these calls. If so, then I clearly misread where Eagles fans were today. But damn, man. I don't know what more you could do if you're Howie. Seriously. We'll continue.
Is great, but his character concerns are like the Ndamukong Suh character concerns, and Nolan Smith is just a 40-pound lighter Derek Barnett.
I don't know if I can continue. How'd Suh do? I'm just saying, how did Suh do? And I don't see him like Suh. I don't see that two being the same. I don't like that comparison. And Derek Barnett. Now, see, the game has changed. I'm done with this call. I'm not going to continue to do that one. Look at the size of Bryce Hall. We're in this world now where everything is evolving. The sports world's evolving. The size factor doesn't bother me too much. If you could play, you could play. And the league has changed to athletic. Look at linebackers now. Look at linebackers 20 years ago. The traditional linebacker, big guy going downhill. Now it's hybridish. Now it's more about coverage. We hate it, but part of the defensive schemes these days is all about Vic Fangio, which Sean Desai is going to have a similar vibe to that, but hopefully tweaking some of the Jonathan Gannon flaws, which we were informed by the head coach that there would be some change there. You don't need to look a certain type of way. If you could ball, you could ball. And Nolan Smith is insanely athletic, super smart, leader, makes plays, and it's a work in progress. These guys will make an impact early on. They won't reach their ceiling because there's also others that will play, and there will be snaps distributed between them all, but it's not about it is about next year. It is about next year because you want to maximize your roster. With that said, the Eagles are set up so nicely that they can value the now because this will help them out now. And they did lose talent on that defensive front with even guys like Linval Joseph and, ironically enough, Suh. You get them out of here. You bring in your new pieces, and you can also look at the long term. I wanted someone that we talk about just as much as we talk about Fletcher Cox. I want to go to year 2034, 2035, still be talking about Nolan Smith, still be talking about Jalen Carter, like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. Do both. Look for the now and look for the long term. You did that. Talent-wise, both of these players can be that. Size. The game has changed. The game has evolved. It's completely different now because of the way that you train, the way that nutrition is in play. These athletes are different breeds. Johnny Gaudreau was never going to make it because he's 5'8". Yeah? Okay. That wouldn't discourage me when I watch the film. Let's go back to the phones.
Yo, bro, I'm actually not disappointed at all. I think Jalen Carter coming to the Eagles with the veteranship that we have are going to get his character just fine. And, man, Howie's building a physical defense. So now we're going to be probably the most physical team on offense and defense. Man, even though the Bijan Robinson would have been must-see Eagles offense. But, hey, Atlanta, smart move. Talk to you in that piece.
It wasn't a smart move. What are we doing on the lines today? Oh, I loved everything until the end. The Bijan Robinson obsession was gross. It was gross. It was dumb. I don't want to be the Atlanta Falcons. I don't want to be the Detroit Lions. I thought the Detroit Lions were moving up in the right direction. They got the coach. They played hard last year. They beat the Green Bay Packers. Everyone loved to see it. Then you saw the draft. See, you fall in love with this dream of what could be. Yes, it would be fun, like a Madden style of offense, to have Bijan Robinson. This is so much better. This is way better use of assets, and this is way better structure for the building. Howie Roseman is one of the best general managers in football. There's a reason why he went this route. At least you enjoyed the pick. We can start there. We'll take one more and then close things out.
Roseman, I love the pick. Jalen Carter was my number one. Never, ever, ever believed in the Bijan Robinson nonsense. Not that he's not a great player. We just don't need it. Never made any sense. And this made sense. And as he kept falling, he kept not getting picked, I got more and more excited. This is huge. I love it.
All right, good. We made progress throughout the calls. Oh, man, we made progress. Good. I like that. I felt the same way about Jalen Carter, man. I really did. That was my number one on my board for me, with realistic Eagles in mind, I'm saying. For my Eagles board, Jalen Carter, it fits everything they love. Just based off of who the Eagles have been, it was sort of a lock that they would do everything in their power to get this man in an Eagles uniform, and I can't wait, man. This is tremendous. To be a Super Bowl contender last season, leading at half. You were in position to win the Super Bowl. You were a Super Bowl favorite. Jalen Hurts balled out on the biggest stage. And to get these two weapons, keep both of your corners. Still a few days to go, too. I'm speechless. All right, those are my thoughts. I love you guys. Subscribe, like, comment, do the whole YouTube thing. Love you guys. Catch you later.